What's going on, brother?
Oh man, Saturday morning,
I love it. Yeah. I'm Aaron.
What's up? I'm Dean.
What's up, Dean?
Dean, I'm Mel. Nice to meet you, man.
What's your name?
Mel, M-E-L.
Mel.
Yeah.
All right.
And then I'm the third member here. I'm Apple.
Apple?
Yes. Yeah. Apple is my last name. So everybody just calls me that.
All right. That's like a deadhead name. Yeah, man. Apple. Mel, the Mel, the woman, not Mel, the dude.
Yeah. You got it.
That's funny.
Dean, man. I got to start this off by just saying thanks, man.
Oh yeah, man.
Fucking huge inspiration, bro.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Once in a while I say yes, you know?
Well, you know, what really gets me is like, we started doing this show 6 years ago. I'm 51.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're 45 and you start something new, it's fucking hard, man. And a lot of people don't think they can do it. You know what I mean?
It's brutal. It's brutal because I think the number one fear is debt. Of course, people have debt, so they never do what they really want to do in life. You know, they stack up their credit cards trying to fill the emptiness in their heart.
Right.
And then they back themselves in this corner, and then their whole life they're like, man, I always wanted to do such and such, but I didn't do it.
Dang.
And then this number two is fear of failure, which is just the most absurd thing to me, because nobody I know does something the first time and then just succeeds. I mean, that's so fucking rare. You never hear of a guy going, I mean, it's so rare. You know, you get a once in a million where the guy goes, man, I don't know. I just never sang. And then I just opened my mouth, and next thing you know, I've got record deals and stuff. It's rare when it happens, but if you really interview all the greats, they always tell you everybody told them no, 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 no. And then they just keep going, and they eventually get somewhere.
Yeah, man. Is that like starting doing comedy late? Is that what you got? A lot of fucking no, and just
I still get no because of the industry. The industry is and I had no idea, but it's heavy ageism in the industry, even in comedy. And so I was lucky that I was naive to that, because, you know, I was like looking at these guys like Maron and Burr and you know, Norm Macdonald and these guys that I loved. And I was like, oh, well, they're my age. So cool. But I completely forgot that they've been doing it for 25 years. So they're in the industry, you know what I'm saying? Where I had no idea. I just saw, you know, gray hair and receding hairlines. I was like, yeah, the industry doesn't care. It's cool. So it is a, you know, I've been doing comedy. I'm on my 14th year. I've never had a manager or an agent, because mostly they just look at me and go, well, I don't know what to do with them. I can't make the quick TV money. And the comedy money, what are you going to give them? 10% of your, you know, $2,000 a month, you know, whatever, you know? So it's a lot of no's, but in this world of being 57 now, I just turned 57 Saturday.
Happy birthday,
brother.
Thanks. You have to embrace the internet. There's a lot of people in their 40s and 50s that don't even know how to work the internet.
Right.
Which blows my mind. They're like, well, I'm on Facebook, you know, Apple, you know. But you have to understand the internet. You have to understand social media, and you have to understand electronics like Zooms and podcasting and editing and YouTube clips and all of that. And it's a huge learning curve, but amazing too, because some people have stopped living in their 40s. They don't try to keep learning. And I'm like, I know all this stuff, you know, I like learning it. Like, wow, man, I put up this stuff. I booked these gigs. I edited that podcast or whatever, you know?
Wow.
Where did you start though? 14 years ago, what was your point of entry? Like, where did you okay, that's how I'm doing it. Like, where did you go from there?
Well, here's what happened. I had played music 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it had run its course. The last tour I did was with the Wallflowers for about 10 months. And I was like, this is great, but I'm going to slowly wind it down because the illegal downloading had expired any kind of money. You used to sell CDs at shows, and that would help with all the, cost of road and everything on top of the money you make from touring.
Right.
But, it got to that point to where I'd be like, you want to buy a CD? And they're like, oh man, my friend burned it for me. It's great. We love it. And it's like, oh, okay.
Fuck.
So I started selling motorcycles. I go, okay, I played music 25 years. I did art. I love motorcycles. I'm going to work at Harley-Davidson and just, in the back half of my life, enjoy that, being home in my own bed.
Right.
And one day the Quentin Tarantino's people came down to the dealer, and they said they're making a biker movie and they wanted an advisor on it, and they hired me. And from there, I got a role in the movie. That movie was called Hell Ride, which was, Larry Bishop, who is, from the Rat Pack. What's his name? What's his dad's name?
Joey Bishop.
Joey Bishop.
Joey Bishop, yeah. So nice. He was the lead. It was me, Michael Madsen, Dennis Hopper.
Holy shit.
Yeah, big. It was in that Grindhouse run that the
okay. All right.
Yeah, nobody saw it. I thought, I'm on my way.
Here we go.
But from that movie, I landed and I never acted, I did a little thing in the Doors movie when I was a kid. But from that, I landed an Ice Cube movie called The Long Shots. It's a football movie, true story about the first girl ever to play Pop Warner football. And there were 3 comedians in this movie: Michael Collier, or the guy named Earthquake, and Garrett Morris from Saturday Night Live. And Garrett Morris, I grew up on him.
Me too.
Mm-hmm. So while we were shooting for 2 months, I was talking to them like, hey man, I've always wanted to do stand-up comedy. And they're like, shit, dude, you're too old. They're laughing and everything, like, get out of here. But while we were filming the movie, they kind of got an idea that I could ad lib on the script and everything. And Earthquake pulled me aside. He said, hey man, when you get home, just go try it, hit some open mics. So I hit the Comedy Store in December 6, 2009, and never stopped.
Holy shit, man. That's badass.
I left Harley-Davidson like a couple years after that, and I've been making a living doing comedy ever since. I've done 5,500 shows.
I don't understand the ageism in comedy. Acting, yes. Modeling, yes. But how are you too old to make people laugh?
Well, that's what I was saying to Aaron. It makes more sense when especially when you're in your mid 40s, you have enough life experience, you're pissed off about the things that you have more of a repertoire and can deliver better, in my mind.
Well, it's interesting because the agents don't really see any kind of money from just comedy. Now, I've done a lot of movies and a lot of TV, but you only make good money off the big arena and theater comics. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So they're not interested in that. And they also don't understand, you're looking for that Peter Grant type of manager who understood how to get Led Zeppelin into different platforms. These guys, they don't really have, and there's no bitterness here at all. But they don't have any clue how to do anything outside the box other than just, well, we send them to auditions. We hope something hits and they get a sitcom and it runs for 10 years. And I can pay my car bills and mortgages. You know, they don't understand that. They barely understand the podcast world, because that was all organic from people like comedians doing it on their own. So the way I look at it is, if I saw somebody like in my level that was like, wait, this guy has been doing arenas with Bill Burr, he's got a podcast for 11 years, he's interviewed all the biggest stars, and he's done movies and TV on his own. Let's take a little bit of our power and juice him up to the next level. You know, that's how I see it. I'm not like one of the young guys where I'm home on the couch smoking weed, playing video games, going, did you get me anything? I'm out getting my own shit, you know?
Well, but what would they make? So all that whole thing you said, what would they bring you up to? Because that doesn't exist.
It seems like you're there.
Yeah, it wouldn't exist.
You're there. If what they could do is stuff like shop your podcast around to sell it to like Spotify, or you know, Netflix eventually will probably have a podcast network, or Hulu. Sell it to you know, try to sell it to Sirius XM, or terrestrial radio. Like, you know, terrestrial radio is dying.
Yeah, man.
Be like, hey, this guy's got 700 episodes of the biggest stars. We'll license them out to you once a week. You can play one of these evergreen interviews with like John Mayer or AC/DC, or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's these ideas that people don't really see. And I see it like, look, man, you can make a lot of money. You know, I know people that sold their podcast for 10, 20, 30 million in the last 6 months.
Wait a minute.
Of course, Joe Rogan, we know that deal.
For real? That much?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, man.
Selling it, but does that mean they're taking over? Like, okay, that's it. It's not you're done, or they're still doing.
There's all kinds of different deals. You can license it out for a couple of years. You could partner with somebody, and you know, because there's the sky's the limit with podcasting. It's still so new.
Yeah, it's been a trip for us, man, because like, this podcast started with me just telling the story of going to my first Grateful Dead show. I was like sitting on my porch with a snowball mic, you know, and since then we're, you know, 6 years in, over 300 episodes. We've interviewed every fucking buddy in the scene that we're a part of. And I knew jack shit about podcasting, the business, any of that. And I did what you did. I taught myself how to edit. I taught myself how to do all the video shit. I taught myself how to book the show. I did all the stuff. And then there comes a point when it's like, you feel like you've been doing it long enough that the game should be, you should be playing the game different. And there's no roadmap now. You know what I mean? For us. So and that's why I love talking to you right now. It's like, because you're making a living,
you're paving a way.
You're showing the way to people like us how to do this thing.
Yeah. Well, also, I always tell people the number one thing to remember is you have to like it.
Fucking love it.
You know, there's years and years and years I didn't make any money. I mean, years. And I just loved what I was doing and was just so floored. Like, I can't believe I'm doing stand-up comedy in the LA Forum, or, you know, or the Open Coliseum. Yeah, open for Metallica, my fucking favorite band ever. So if you don't love what you're doing, and you know, I know a lot of people that start podcasts and they last like 15 episodes because they're like, I didn't make any money. And it's like, it's not about that, man.
Oh, shit.
It's never about making money. You know, it should be about how can you live the best life for the short amount of time that you're here? How can you enjoy yourself the entire time and not box yourself into some shit job and miserable divorce and all these bills and all that? That's just the wrong way of thinking. People are, if they're looking at how much do you make, you've already lost.
Yeah, you're coming from the wrong fucking place. Like there was a day, maybe about a year or two in, and we were all sitting on the porch together. We all lived together. And I was like, gonna drop the news, I sit down with these guys. I'm like, look, I have something really important to tell you. Like, I finally figured it out. I know what I want to do with the rest of my life. I want to do No Simple Road. This is what I love. And these guys all look at me like, yeah, we already knew that. But I felt like I was delivering like,
it was like all like, you know, the stage was set and it was like quiet. And he's like, I figured it out, guys. And he's like, what? It was like,
duh.
okay,
But,
yeah. And
but
that's
the thing is with it, like figuring out what makes you happy in life and then pursuing that thing. We were talking to some cats from France this morning, this band, the Inspector Clouseau. You should check them out. You'd probably dig it. And these guys, man, they're running this farm.
They're rock farmers.
Yeah. And they have a band. And like in the United States, we are what we do. You know what I'm saying? Like if you ask somebody, what do you do? They're like, oh, I work at Intel. I'm a, you know, I punch cards or whatever. In any other place in the world, you ask somebody what they do and they start telling, well, I like playing lacrosse and I swim. And instead of like doing what we are, it's a completely different mindset. And, it's fucking hard. And especially I'm 51. At 51 to finally be like, I know what I want to be when I grow up. Now you have a whole set of challenges in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, once I started comedy, I was just kind of like, oh, wow, this is what I'm here to do. You know, music is just the long way to get there.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And it taught me everything. It taught me booking gigs. It taught me, the behind the scenes business. It taught me performing. It taught me, you know, microphone skills and writing skills and traveling. And it's taught me a lot. So I took a long route to get to the stand-up and well worth it, you know?
Yeah.
But
man.
Dean, what was your entry to music then? So you 25 years, you know, before your 14 years of comedy, like what was your like goal and how did you start in that industry?
Well, I think it starts with the way anybody gets into music. You know, I saw Kiss. You know, I saw AC/DC in the 70s.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, I worked construction. I did landscaping. And I knew like I didn't really have skill. I wasn't going to work in an office. And this is pre-computer. Now I would be able to work in the industry of like, well, I could just do this editing or I could do that, whatever. But back then it was like, there was no choice. And that was like, wow, I loved comedy and I loved music at the same time. So I was like, well, I'm going to get a guitar and neighborhood kids and let's play some music. And then years went by. And you know, that was it, man. I think some people, you see me at a concert and you go, I got to do that.
Yeah.
And I remember, dude, like you're 6 years older than me, but growing up in the time period that we did, comedy and music were synonymous with each other. You had bands like AC/DC and Led Zeppelin and all that, and then there was like Cheech and Chong and Richard Pryor and all that stuff. And it was Carlin. Yeah. And
those were rock stars to me. And the early SNL of John Belushi, Bill Murray, you know, Jonathan Winters, Bob Newhart. These were like rock stars to me also, because, you know, I've said it a million times, you'd put on a Ted Nugent record and then next thing you know, you put on Cheech and Chong, you know, then you put on Zeppelin, and then you put on, you know, Richard Pryor. It was just a standard thing at parties.
Yeah. And it really did like inform who we were as people at the time. And it's so different now because there's such like this mass overload of entertainment and information. And it's a trip. And so the first time I heard you actually was, I think you were talking to Duncan Trussell.
Yeah.
And you guys
in New York.
Yeah. And I think you were talking about the Dead. And I was like, this cat's fucking cool. What turned you on to the Dead, Dean?
Well, I grew up in the ground zero of the Dead, the Bay Area.
Oh shit.
And I hated the Dead. You know, I couldn't stand it because it was all over the place. And it was like, nah, I'm into Metallica. You know, Metallica was my Bay Area band.
Mhm.
And I just didn't like the Dead at all. I didn't like the scene. I didn't like tie-dye. And I didn't like that kind of Trustafarian thing because I was such a blue collar, hardworking guy, and people always try, dude, I need a miracle. I couldn't relate to it at all. It was just aggravating to me. And then right around the era of alt country, I was huge into Wilco, Sunvolt, Lucinda Williams, and you know, that whole thing. And I was playing alt country, and then I got Working Man's Dead, and I was like, well, this is a Dead album I can get behind, you know.
Yeah.
So I still didn't like the Dead, but I liked Working Man's Dead. You know that guy?
I do know that guy. I was that guy.
Yeah. But really what happened was one of my favorite bands ever is the Mother Hips.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 100%. One of the favorite bands of all time. One time they asked me to go on Jam Cruise with them.
Okay.
Jam Cruise is on right now.
Yep, it is. Yeah. Neil Francis is out on it right now, a good friend of mine. But they said, we'll tell him you're our manager so you can go free. I go, oh, that rocks. I've never been on a cruise, you know. So we go, and they go to Jamaica, you know, and Dark Star Orchestra was playing. And I'm not into Dead cover bands at all. Like, I don't listen to any Dead cover bands. But that night they were doing some set from like that famous set from Great American Music Hall, ladies and gentlemen, that, you know, Bill Graham comes on, Bill Lesh on the bass,
yes,
on the guitar, you know, that one.
Yeah.
So they're doing that set that night, and they open up with that Help slip, you know, like, and I was like, wow, what is this? You know, this is cool, this music. And then they played Shakedown Street. And I love disco, and I love grooves and stuff. And I was like, what song is this? So I got home and I started listening to the Dead. And then next thing you know, I was hooked, man. And a big time hooked. Like, I like the Brent Midland era only now. You know,
you became that guy.
Yeah. And then it's like, I love him except for when he sings, oh yeah, on the crew, yeah. But he was great. But then, you know, I still kept going back to that 72, right? Pigpen, you know, right before he's gone. And then I went to the Fare Thee Well shows, and I was pretty fucking hooked by then. But also something else was going on in my mind. I was loosening up. I wasn't as angry as I was young, you know, like fuck all that.
Get it?
And I was getting into a state of mind of just like taking a lot of mushrooms and microdosing and opening my mind. I listened to all kinds of music, but it was just, there were some rigid things I wasn't into.
You were turning yourself into a hippie.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I was born and raised in Yosemite, so I was a hippie, but I wasn't that type of hippie that was kind of a fake hippie.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's the type of hippie I didn't like. The freeloaders. I don't like freeloaders.
We call them whoops now.
Yeah, because I had a shitty stepdad that didn't work. So that was inside my heart of like, these fucking guys, go get a job, you know. That's
right.
That's where it was coming from. So once John Mayer gets into Dead & Co., it's a whole game changer for me.
What,
you know,
what was it?
It was because I wasn't a John Mayer fan.
Okay.
You know, I didn't become a John Mayer fan until he was in Dead & Co. And then I found Born and Raised, and I thought, wow, this is the greatest record I've never heard.
Right.
And I still play that record every Sunday now. It is I usually play Tapestry every Sunday, but now I play Tapestry and Born and Raised. Those are my Sunday records. But
And
it was something about me judging him also, and me learning like what an asshole I am for like judging him, because it was more of a jealousy thing. Like, this guy's just good looking. That's why the girls like him. He's not a, he's not
oh
really,
shit.
Body Was a Wonderland was all I ever heard. And that's just more small-minded bullshit.
Dude, yes.
Me.
You know what, man? I've joked. I said nobody should be that good looking, talented, and funny. It's not fair.
Yeah.
It's just not. And
He's also a great human, man. Great human.
Well, I was always a fan of his. Like I told her, I have been for a long time, because he always did the Crossroads music festivals, and he is very good. Like people say,
he's a chameleon.
He can mimic anybody. Yeah, he's a chameleon with any. I mean, I've never heard anybody play Stevie Ray the way he does to play. I mean, he can do everything, and then now he's come into his own even more with Dead and Company.
It's unreal.
Yeah, I don't think that your experience with that is unique, man. I think that a lot of people got like blown away by him. And you know what? The whole small-minded thing, I want to say something about that. Like, we just had a artist on the show. Her name is LP Giobi, and she's a a DJ, and she was raised by like hardcore deadheads. Her parents are hardcore deadheads. She came from Oregon Country Fair stock. Like, this girl steeped and raised in Grateful Dead ethos, and she remixed the Garcia album, the one with the wheel on it. And she just like puts this out into the world, did her thing. She thought she was being respectful and awesome doing her art, putting it out into the world. And the Deadhead community shit all over her, and just like sliding into her DMs, telling her you fucking suck and doing all this shit. And it's like, look, man, this thing has been growing and changing for over 50 years. And I think when we grew up, Dean, there was a clear line between cliques. You were a stoner or you were a jock, right?
Goth.
That shit ain't like that.
Yeah, you had the Cure people, you had the metalheads, the stoners, the jocks,
and the punks. And
and the punks. And there you go,
And so I think when we were growing up, it was hard for us to listen to other shit because of that.
It wasn't for me. I always listened to other shit. I was a hardcore disco guy. I loved Prince. I loved Bee Gees. I loved Earth, Wind, and Fire. It wasn't that. It was more of being in San Francisco, in the ground zero of Haight Street. I lived on 10th and Cabrillo, 1 block from the park.
Right.
So, just going to get a burrito, dude, you got $1, man, bro. Jerry Bear, bro. And after a while, it was more of a work ethic thing for me. Wow. It was never about the music. It was the fans that fucked it up for me. And there you go, just telling you how they slipped into her DMs and were, they're as closed-minded as anyone, which is crazy for how peace, love, and Jer Bear they are.
Yes.
It's pretty wild how rigid they could be,
Dang. You know what, Dean? Thank you for saying that. That is such another perspective, because it's true. Everybody thinks it's like peace and love and stuff like that. And it is. It really is in there. But there's that other side where they don't fucking listen to anything else. If it's not the original, they don't fucking want it. And they're, very in their circles. And that's a little bit what turned me off in the beginning too, because I didn't really grow up going to any of those shows or anything. I was a young mom. I didn't do any of that shit. And as growing into into that community, you get to see that, because now the different generations have grown up. Their children are there, like there's multiple generations, and there's also multiple ways of seeing that population. You still got the ones that are very stuck in their ways and they're just going to be like that. And the ones like Aaron was just saying, the children of these people that are stuck in their ways, but they're expressing what they grew up around differently. Because she likes fucking EDM. So she's not going to do a freaking traditional band. She's going to do what she's into. And so it just really shows like those these certain groups that seem like they're open and accepting, they're really not too much.
Well, it depends.
It depends. Exactly.
Yeah.
It depends.
And
Right, yeah.
I think with us, I was very like musically closed-minded. Once I got turned on to the Dead, like nothing kind of scratched that itch for me the way that did. Once I dropped acid and listened to the Dead, everything changed. And like,
Yeah.
And it really was doing this show that musically opened me up to universe of music that's out there and all the good shit that's happening. And it bums me out when people fucking will slide into somebody's DMs like that and just be shitty. And it bothers me. It's like, you know what, man, we're supposed to be kind to each other. It's supposed to be about being cool, man. Don't be a dick. And I don't know. It's cool to see things change, and it is cool to see an evolution. We're getting to see an evolution in music right now that we're really lucky to be alive right now as far as music is concerned.
I also think it's a small pocket of people. So I always say promote what's great, not what you hate.
Yeah.
You know? And I think it's a small pocket of people. And I think that I always focus on the positivity. So I've had some of the greatest times in my life at these Dead & Co shows. And so I don't think about just that small little thing. And I also think about how great it feels to be able to let loose of that negativity that I was cruising around with for years, you know, because it just makes you expand more as a human, you know?
No shit.
And so that's really good. Also, I've been in the Grateful Dead scene longer than most of these people even know what they're talking about. You know, I mean, I grew up around it. Right. One of my closest friends was Chris Saruki, who was the stage manager for the Dead and Dead & Co. He lived in my apartment. He died in my apartment. And I was around the Dead for a long time. You know, for years and years and years, playing the Sweetwater in Mill Valley. I was the only guy to do a comedy show at Terrapin Station. It was sold out before it closed. I've been around the Dead my whole life, and it just took a while to take it in. And, you know, I'm glad I didn't take it in when I was younger, because I'd be out of music. If you loved everything from day one, you'd be like, I've heard it all. I've seen it all.
I'm done.
I'm out of music.
Yeah,
man.
that's it. do you attribute a lot of this to microdosing?
I think it's there's all kinds of stuff. The microdosing has been helping big time, but I think it's being around other incredible artists, whether it be Bill Burr or John Mayer, you know, or other people that have some, I mean, if you sit and talk with John Mayer for hours, it's just like, he and I is like a great tennis match. It's just back and forth, back and forth. And it's like, wow, man, you know, it's around being around great people. I'll tell you a great story. Another favorite band of mine is Rival Sons. They were playing the Fillmore, and Bob Weir came down. So I'm opening the show as a comedian. And so I'm talking to Bob. Here I am. I'm talking about this guy made the Fillmore. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And he's telling me little nuggets. We're in the green room. But if you've ever been to the Fillmore, there's kind of these Lincoln booths. So you can just pop out and look down. And he's like, yeah, you know, if you just poke your head a little further out there, it's like you're in the house with the audience. You know, you get the PA and the feel. He's giving me all these cool secrets. And I'm like, this is great. And he's like, I can't wait to see you do stand-up, man. So I go down there and I come on, and it's, you know, one of those old ways of thinking crowds where they boo the openers.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I'm out there, and it's only like 5 guys, but they're like in their late 50s, but look 70, you know, those guys.
I know him.
Yeah. And so they're like, you know, boo, you know, and I'm doing comedy, and it's not going good. And I'm like, fuck, I'm going to bomb in front of Bob Weir.
Oh, no.
This sucks. I'm thinking in my mind.
Yeah.
And then one guy says, go home. And I said, I am home, dude.
Oh,
I know you can't afford living in this town. So you go home to Vallejo. And now I got the crowd starting going, right? And I just start rifling this dude for like 3 minutes. Now I got the crowd back. And by the 20 minutes, by the end of it, I'm killing it. And I go up and Bob Weir's like, man, I've never seen anything like that. They hated you and then they loved you. That was wild. And I thought to myself, that's how I feel about you. I hate you guys, and now I love you. You know, I didn't say that to him, but I was like, you won me over, you know, and people win people over, you know, because that dude booing was closed-minded and didn't fucking, you know, give it a chance. And it was funny because after the show, I was out at the tour bus and the guy walked up, he goes, hey, we were the guys booing you. And I said, yeah, why the fuck were you guys booing?
Why the fuck you doing it?
Oh,
Dean, you locked up, Dean.
what the fuck?
It's so dumb.
There
you go.
You locked
You
up.
locked up right when you said, "Why the fuck are you booing me?" Is
There
where
you
we
go.
left off.
Boom.
And he said, I don't know.
Like what?
Whatever, dick.
I know. Well, they were that's what they were trained to do. Hate the opener because they were old dudes. In the 70s, you booed the opener.
Wow.
Wow.
What a weird
That's what
fucking world.
we don't know.
I don't know.
Fuck you more.
You know those people?
Yes.
I mean, I always tell the story where Prince got booed opening for the Stones. You know, he opened for the Stones in, it was either, I think it was 89 or 81, one of those. And the whole LA Coliseum booed him. And I guarantee those people to this day go, oh, we saw Prince open for the Stones. He was amazing. I know they were the booers. I know they were the booers.
Yeah.
And those are the people that are always the most like, yeah, he was fucking amazing that night. Yeah. No,
I was there at the beginning, man. You guys didn't know.
How many times did you
Also-
see Jerry? Yeah.
Also, I used to book Stone in San Francisco, and Jerry played there a lot.
Oh. Yeah. So you had the chance to see him play a few
The
times.
Stone. No. I never saw Jerry play. But he, you know, I booked the club, but he would do those solo runs there and stuff, you know?
Yeah. Some of those, like, I saw him at the Warfield a few times, and there was something magical about seeing him playing in San Francisco by himself, man. Those shows, there was something special.
I love the documentary, man. I love both documentaries. I like the Bob Weir one, the other one.
Oh yeah,
God.
so fucking good. You know what, man? I almost lost my Deadhead card. We had a listener friend of ours, this kid Connor, hung out with us on New Year's Eve, and we're all partying here back at the house after we went to a show, and he's like, oh yeah, in the Long Strange Trip documentary. And I was like, I've never watched it. And he was like,
Oh, wow.
what? He's like, wait,
for years.
You have never seen the Long Strange? I was like, no, man, I've never seen it. He's like, please let me watch the Long Strange Trip with you. I was like, all right. So like 2 weeks later, he came over, him and I spent the whole day. We watched the whole fucking thing. And I'll tell you what, man, like, I don't know what my aversion was to watching it. I felt like I did that. Why do I need to see a documentary on it? Kind of, like, sort of, in a way. But there's so much good history in that shit that I just didn't know.
I saw it in the theater, man. It was cool.
Oh, fuck. Yeah. And I think, too, one of the things that's, like, at least for me, changing my mind about a lot of stuff is podcasting. Getting to hear conversations with artists that aren't just about, like, what fucking guitar strings they use or what their amp settings are, that kind of shit, or a 15-minute or 5-minute radio spot, but getting to hear, like, long form conversations with the artists. You get to know the people that are making the music, and then the music changes. Have you had that experience?
Well, I've been lucky enough to, on my podcast, which is called Let There Be Talk. If anybody wants to hear it, I've had John Mayer on 4 hours.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was an epic day for the podcast. But I've been lucky enough to, I never have anybody on the podcast that didn't inspire me or that I didn't love, you know, like over the years, I've had people say, hey, can you get this band on? And I'm like, I just can't do it because the audience trusts who I have on. You know what I mean? It's not a promo junction type of interview. So I've been lucky enough to have people on that I've always loved and got to ask the questions that I wanted to know, which was just wild, you know. I mean, I was the first guy ever to have AC/DC on a podcast, and I named my podcast after Let the Beat Rock. It's called Let the Beat Rock.
Yeah.
And I grew up on AC/DC, and I absolutely love them. And to have them on and be able to ask these questions was insane to me, you know. Insane.
Same with this show. We do have new artists, but everything's vetted before we have them on. So it's like, this is something that we love. We're going to introduce this to the people that listen to our show so we can fall in love with something new together. You know what I mean? And
I have tons of new acts on. They're all acts I love. Oh my God. It's constant new music all the time.
I got one for you.
Yeah.
Leon the Third. It's Leon and then 3 eyes. Just trust me on this one. Guys, you're gonna fucking love it. It's amazing shit. But
mine is Houndmouth.
I'm writing everything.
Houndmouth. Okay, cool.
If you're into the band,
oh shit.
My God, these are young dudes selling out everywhere with some of the greatest songs I've heard in years and just crushing it. And then of course Marcus King.
Oh yeah.
Who I just did a 2-month tour opening for. Monster. Neil Francis.
Oh yeah.
You know, these are some new acts that are, I mean, Marcus King and Houndmouth could be some of the greatest music I've heard in 20 years.
Marcus is a singular, unique talent.
It's insane.
That voice, without even him playing, just his voice is magic. And then you add the guitar into that shit, and it's like, what is happening?
Yeah, I just did 33 dates with him. We did everywhere. 2 nights at the Beacon, 2 at the Ryman, 2 at the Tabernacle, the Wiltern, you know, San Francisco. It was insane. And that was a tough gig too. Opening, you know, for a band is so hard because if the audience doesn't know there's a comedian on the show, they're looking at you like, why is this roadie talking about his dick? You know? You know what I mean? They're just looking at you like, what the fuck, you know? And so that's a whole different animal too, trying to figure out how to do that skill set, you know?
Do you know, I wonder, so like with Marcus King, you know, the idea of people traveling to this with the same band and seeing their show in different cities and different towns. So when you're doing stand-up, you have to change your set a lot. Is that not true? Or do you kind of go through the same thing?
Well, it's kind of like being in a band where you've got your hits.
Okay.
Which would be your, you know, these are going to work. But since you're on the road, you have to be organic about it and talk about the city you're in or the venue you're in or some people you met that day or a shitty meal you had in that town or a great meal. Or a bad hotel, whatever. You're going to weave in and out of life also, you know?
Yeah.
And I would switch the setup all the time. After I saw Fare Thee Well, I started for a couple years just doing full freestyle comedy. And that's really dangerous to do because you get lost and you're like, shit, did I do this joke already? You're just, you know, you're just out there telling jokes and then you start one that usually kills and this kind of stone face look at you, you're like, oh, fuck, I think I did this. And they're looking at me like I'm crazy, you know?
So improv isn't that easy with comedy.
It is if it's nightly, but a lot of times I do 2 shows in a night.
Oh,
and then you're on your second show and you're like, oh man, did I do this already? And that's
if you hit some weed between sets, you're fucked.
It's also funny anyway, because you can just go like, hey, did I do this bit? You know, like, and they're like, no. And oh, okay. It's just bombing then. Okay.
Cool. Right. Yeah. Right on.
Yeah, all right.
I always find some of the best shit, and you do it too. A lot of stand-up comedians do it, and you do it well. Is the improv part is wherever you're at is playing off the audience,
Like Phil Hanley.
the dude texting in the audience, the chicks that there's so much, and that can lead to so much from just playing off the audience.
Yeah. I do think there's a thin line on that you gotta watch out for, because there's an unfortunate thing going right now where newer comedians, they're just trying to do crowd work at shows so they go viral on TikTok. Okay. And that is a dangerous game to play, because after a while you're like, oh God, more crowd work, more crowd. You just start flicking through it going like, this isn't look, you got a lot of traction from it, but when the people come to see you, you better have some material. Because after a while, how many times do you want to hear somebody say, you guys together? You single? Where are you from? What do you do for a living? You know, those are just like, after a while, you're like, oh God, I like to see someone that is a goddamn, joke killer. Yeah. And then in between can roll some stuff in there, you know.
Don't rely completely on the audience, because then they're making your act for you. You got to depend.
Yeah, and you could be in Madison, or Des Moines, Iowa, or something, and you go, where are you from? And they don't say shit, and you're just trapped.
And now there's crickets.
Yeah.
Now you've got an hour.
You're fucked.
You got an hour, and your first "where are you from" didn't work, and then you guys dating, anybody single, all of that. Oh my God! After a while, people are like, "We get it, man. Tell us jokes. We work hard all day. We paid for a ticket."
Yeah, I'm not here to hear myself.
Yeah,
Dean,
I'm wearing a dumb blue shirt. So what?
I wanted to ask too about like our freaking climate right now is really weird, and comedy is not. Well, I don't think it ever was easy, but to like make fun of a group or talk about something, how do you get around that without like being canceled or people being assholes? Or because like before you could make fun of a certain kind of group, like, oh, Puerto Ricans or whatever. And now it's like you say anything like that and you are,
oh my gosh,
and honestly, I was telling Aaron, I was like, I'm not down with stand-up comedy, because if it's not self-deprecating humor, then it's just dumb shit that nobody wants to hear. And luckily, when I was listening to some of your stuff, I was like pleasantly surprised that you do a lot of different shit. And so I just wanted to ask about that part, about like the comedy now versus like
the razor's edge
years ago,
Well, let's get it straight right here. You can say anything you want until you're famous. So there are a million people out there saying whatever the fuck they want. It's only when you have something they can take away, which is usually a network TV show or a radio gig. But anything you have on your own, your success of your own, say a podcast or your own following, they can't cancel you. You're uncancelable because you've made your own, your own thing. So there's no power there. It's like when Charlie Sheen came out and he goes, I fuck hookers and I do blow. You got nothing on me now. So they're like,
yeah.
Who wants to be machinist?
I'm just saying, it's like they can only take shit from you if you work for the machine.
Okay.
I heard Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson talking about this exact thing. Like, they've been trying to take away Jordan Peterson's licensing and all this shit, but he's got so much going on and he's creating so much that it's like, okay, I'm not even practicing that anymore. Do what you got to do. And same thing with Joe Rogan. He can pretty much say whatever he wants and have whoever he wants on, and there's nothing's going to happen.
Well, also, let's get it straight too. I believe that a lot of that comedy was of a time. and it's where we grew up, you know.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of old people that are still in that frame of mind, and they look at the jokes as reality. Like, yeah, get rid of that guy, you know, that neighbor of mine, whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They take it in the wrong way.
Right.
I have some great jokes where I'll send it up straight ahead and somebody will be like, oh, fuck yeah. And then I'll go to the other way and they're like, what? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I think that really what it has done for me is constantly try to be a better writer, a smarter writer, and how can I be funny and, you know, and have it to be people thinking about what I'm talking about, like no homophobia, no racism, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Any kind of stuff that I bring up, you know, that people are just assholes about. You know what I mean? I don't care who you fuck, what your religion is, you know, what your sexuality, any of that. Just be a good person.
Don't be a
Yeah.
dick.
You know,
Yep.
that's the bottom line. You know, just be a cool person. So it's really forced me to write way better, and it makes it, you know, instead of picking low hanging fruit, you know, that's easy to do. Just shit on someone. That's
Yeah.
easy to do, but it's not great, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And and you know what, man, like anything that forces you to be better, I'm for it. Like
Totally. And I don't think it's taken away. Any of the people are like, yeah, you're taking away freedom of speech. No, it's not. You can say anything you want. Like I always tell people, hey, you can be racist. Go be racist, but don't watch the NBA then. Don't watch the NFL.
Yeah.
Don't listen to blues music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You might as well just shut the radio off.
Don't be a fucking hypocrite.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go do your thing, but live in your cabin in the woods, drink some Monster Energy drinks and shoot your guns.
Have at it, killer.
And have at it. That's fine. But don't fucking say, fuck these people and then watch the NBA. You're out of your fucking mind.
Yeah.
You know?
No shit. No shit. And
so it brought you to a better level then. It sharpened your knife. That's right.
100%. And it's such a challenge. It's such a challenge to write smart, good material and original material. It takes a long time for me because, you know, when I first started, I'll tell you a story. I was killing it the first 2 years. I was smashing. And then one day, my good buddy, who's a funny ass comedian, Ian Edwards, I got off stage and he goes, what are you doing up there? And I go, what are you talking about? I was killing. He goes, yeah, but you're killing with bullshit.
Oh,
You know, you're way funnier than that at the diner and smarter. And, you know, that's garbage material. And I had to start all over. He was right. And I took a year of bombing. I was taking it to the face for a year, you know, because I was just trying to find smarter material and get better. And if he didn't tell me that, I'd just be a shitty, hacky comic out there doing fucking, you know, airplane jokes.
Wow. Has there been a moment like that for you with podcasting?
You know, the podcasting is a thing you just kind of learn over the years. I listen to old episodes now because I'll repost them if somebody passes away, you know, I had on or whatever. And you have to listen to your own podcast once in a while because, you know, when you're first starting out, you're just stomping on people because you're excited. You're interviewing one of your fucking idols.
Yep.
And you're just rifling questions at them before they can answer them. You know, you're like, so tell me about, you know, Blues for Allah. Well, man, I love Terrapin Station too.
No shit.
You know what I mean? Which, by the way, Terrapin Station is my favorite all-time Dead song for the last 5 years now. I just want to get that out there.
Okay, yeah, let's just make that clear right now.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I learned over the years to listen to people. And also I ignore comments because no matter how good the interview is, people just comment like, hey man, why did you fucking You know, it's a free podcast, and they just sit on the couch and go, you know, as
Go
they
do a podcast then.
Yeah, nothing with their life except comment on other people's lives. What a sad existence.
So I
love
no
what
shit.
he said, because we really dealt with that with three of us talk.
Oh.
In the beginning, we would get heated with each other. Like the interview'd you didn't even let me get a fucking word in. You didn't even pause to let him finish answering the fucking question before you blasted him with something else. And with three people,
Oh
we're
fuck,
coming
it was
at him with
bad.
three different minds, three different forms of questions, and we were like beefing with each other almost. And then
It's
now
turned into a beautiful marriage.
we've learned to pause and let people answer.
You know, here's the other thing with all of this too, man.
Was
is-
that a pause?
yeah, that is a pause.
Okay, you go now.
Yeah.
I had this misconception before starting doing this of like, and I think a lot of people do. You see Rogan, you see guys like Duncan, guys like Maron, you doing podcasting, and you're like, okay, if I just do it and I get the right guests, the show's going to be big and I'm going to make money, or whatever the thought is. That's not it. Like you said in the beginning, if you're doing this to make money, you're probably in the fucking wrong business. This is because you love it.
The big thing too is you can get the biggest guest, and you're like, this should be 1 million listeners. And you know, you're battling algorithms, man.
Dude.
And that's the only enemy I have in life is algorithms, heart attacks, and cancer. Those are my only 3 things I hate. And you just look at it and you go like, well, wait a minute. This guy stole a clip of my podcast, put it on YouTube, and he's got 800,000 views on it, and mine has 80,000. And I'm the fucking guy that booked the show, recorded, and put in the 11 years. So it's really tough. And I think I come from that Metallica, Grateful Dead world of grassroots.
Yep.
And I think that people do not understand enough the power of grassroots, the power of fucking spreading the word. And I think that that is underrated these days. And people just figured about something because we all have the internet. And that's not the case, because the internet has a billion things on it. So if you like something, people, you like what the person does, join their Patreon, spread the word, and you know, comment on their Instagrams and their YouTube page, subscribe, tell people, go to their shows, do whatever you can. You know, there's a thing I read in the New York Times. If you had 1,000 true fans, you can survive forever doing art. 1,000 true fans.
Wow.
Yes.
Let him finish.
No, I shut the fuck up.
If 1,000 true fans spent like $100 or so a year on you, you know, you would just be able to survive forever doing art, you know, because there's nothing worse when people go, you should be way bigger than you are. It's like, oh, I know that, believe me, but I don't think about that. I'm just lucky that I'm here each day. I got up. Yep. I'm fucking alive. I got friends that they're gone, man, and I'm up and I'm enjoying life.
Yeah. When you just said that, there's one of our listeners, John B, and he's just ride or die for the show. Like, dude is down for whatever. And I've said it to Apple and Mel. I'm like, if we had 1,000 of those, we would be set. We'd be set.
Yeah.
Like, no problem. And you're right. Like, at the beginning or the end of every show, Apple will usually say it. He'll be like, look, the easiest thing that all of you can do out there to help us grow this show is to tell somebody that you love about it. Simple. It doesn't cost anything. It's super fucking easy. And when you and I were growing up, man, that's the way that we found out about cool shit.
That's the only way. There's 3 things that were going on. There was a flyer, and you were randomly walking up Haight Street, and you looked at the flyer and went, those guys look cool. Mm-hmm. And you took a chance, And the next one was cassette tape trading. Check out this shit. And the third was word of mouth, man.
Yeah.
Sitting around at school, and the guy's like, dude, I heard this band last night. You got to check them out. And you would go see it, you know?
Mm-hmm. And back to the flyer. Usually the flyer was like a skull or a skeleton vomiting or some shit, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, like that's cool.
Something on fire.
Yeah.
Something on fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Dean, man, I like I said in the beginning, brother, you're a huge inspiration, and you know, just thanks.
I also wanted to congratulate you on being on the Comedy Store's the 50th anniversary thing. Right before we got on with you, I was listening to one of your recent podcasts, and you mentioned it, so I stopped and went on there and listened. And you're right, the sound quality is dope, and what a cool thing to be a part of in like being a comedian later on in life, and like being able to be part of that huge work. That's freaking rad, and congratulations, man.
Oh man, you know, I look at it like I talk to people all the time, and I'm like, somebody needs to do a documentary. I mean, not just because it's me, but it's such an underdog, kind of a self-help, a positive thing of like stepping onto the Comedy Store patio in 2009 at 44, not knowing a fucking soul, not knowing how to do comedy, and seeing those names on that wall: Richard Pryor, Marc Maron, Bill Burr, Sarah Silverman, you know, just Norm Macdonald, just superstars. And then having your name painted on the wall and being included in the 50-year anniversary box set, which, by the way, you can buy it on vinyl. It's insane. It's got the 70s era, the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s.
Wow.
And to be on that thing is just, it's beyond to me. And I do not take it for granted. And every night I'm on stage in there, I can't fucking believe it, you know?
Yeah, man.
Right on.
That's
man.
you deserve
well,
it.
yeah, you worked your ass off to get there, to be in those with those names, like that.
Thousands of hours. I always tell people that. They go, hey, you got any you know, advice? And I start to tell it to them, and I can see it go in their head and out the back, like, fuck that. That sounds like a lot of work. And they just move on. Because I tell them, no girlfriend, no partying, no, you know, it's 100% this.
In
100% comedy, you know, if you're going to go for it.
Yeah.
That's just all there is to it, because the next guy is going to give 100%.
Wow.
And the only, you being on that, having your name painted on that wall and being on that record, the only thing that I can like even close to equate that to, two things. One was podcasting from the stage in Terrapin Crossroads.
Oh, wow.
And the other was talking to Donna Jean Godshall.
Oh, wow. Is she still alive?
Yeah. And she's fucking amazing. Everybody shits on Donna and her voice and whatever. If you weren't in the Grateful Dead 2, shut the fuck up.
Well, like she's all, you're listening down there. They weren't the best vocal range, the songbirds themselves.
We were finishing the interview with her. It was our 200th episode, and we were like kind of wrapping up and getting ready to say goodbye, and I just burst in tears, man. These guys had to finish. I couldn't finish it because that thing has been such a big deal for me my whole life.
Yeah.
And to be at the table with it at all in any fashion is so fucking surreal. And weird to have a voice in that community and like talk to her. And I just lost my shit. So I can't even imagine how you feel about that.
Yeah, it's I mean, you know, when you get a dream guest, it's wild. Like, I still want to talk to Bobby Ware, you know, but mostly not so much about the dead, but just about work ethic and life. And you know, that whole thing, you know, without the Metallica crowd and the Dead crowd, those bands would be nowhere, because the labels didn't want these guys. They didn't want some hippies. They didn't want the Metallica, the Metallica guys. They wanted, at the time Metallica was coming around, they wanted good looking, you know, guys and, you know, radio songs. So the audience is the power.
Mm.
You know, that's all there is to it. The audience is the power. You know, they have the power. They can just say, we're going to see these guys everywhere. And you know, next thing you know, you're big.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah. Well, man, all I know is I'm going to keep doing my thing, keep doing what I love. And thanks for doing what you do, Dean. I appreciate you, man. I hope
Thanks for having me on, man.
yeah, man, anytime. And if you ever come up to Portland, Oregon, and you're going to be doing anything, let us know.
I was just there. I've been to
Oh, yeah?
Portland. I've been to Portland a lot this year. I did 2 nights with Marcus King up there. We did that Crystal Ballroom.
Okay.
I just did the Trailblazers Arena with Bill Burr. It was insane. 18,000 people.
Wow,
Wow,
man.
man. Fuck. I'll shoot you my number when you come through, man. We'll hook up and break bread.
Oh, I want to give a shout out. If anybody lives in Portland, go to Ship John's, the greatest clothing place on the planet. All handmade, incredible clothing by an amazing man. And I always shout that place out. And I love Portland, man. I love it. I almost moved there a year ago.
Oh, man.
Right on, man.
Well, when you come through, you got more family up here, man.
Yeah. Oh, when's this come out?
It'll be 4 weeks. Do you need it to come out at a certain time?
Oh, I'm doing San Francisco, February 22 through the 15th, 22 through 25. But well, I just want to know when it's coming out because I'll promote. I'm doing a residency in Las Vegas Easter week, 1 week at the Comedy Cellar. So if anybody's in Vegas the week of Easter, come check that out, or check out my website, deandelray.com, and Instagram is Dean Delray, and my podcast is Let There Be Talk.
Ah, fuck. We didn't even get to talk about your network, but next time.
Oh yeah, Cactus Radio Network.
Right on,
And that's a whole nother fucking hour on thinking you can do a network on your own. Holy shit.
Yeah, I would love to talk to you about that sometime, man, because we're in a world that is uncharted water. We are in the Wild West of podcasting. So
yeah, I love the network, man. It's cool.
You take care of yourself, brother.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, anytime, man.
Working
Have
hard,
a great
man.
day.
Candles lit.